Hey guys and gals, it's your buddy Drew. You know, with this cyclospora bacteria spreading, being caused by a main food source throughout the world, it got me wondering about pandemics, plagues in our own history. I was looking for the most unusual pandemic that struck the world. And I ran across one from way back that still to this day has not been scientifically explained. No medical cause, nothing for science to base anything on. This is just weird. This is some strange history.
The summer of 1518 in Strasbourg was hot, bright, and, by all accounts, utterly uneventful, until it wasn't. Imagine the scene. A cobblestone street, market stalls laden with onions, a few locals muttering about taxes, and then one woman, without warning, begins to dance. No lute, no drum, no wedding feast, just her, thrashing and stomping under the midsummer sun like a medieval flash mob of one. At first, people stare, then they point, then they do what humans always do when something looks a bit strange. They gather around to watch, certain it will be over in a minute. But it isn't. Hours pass, then days, and somewhere between blistered feet and glazed eyes, curiosity begins to curdle into dread. This is how the dancing plague begins. But it's not just the streets that lose their grip. In convents, the holy quiet shatters. Nuns meow like cats, bite one another, scream until their throats give out. Imagine the medieval clergy trying to address that in the next sermon without losing the congregation entirely. And the authorities? Well, this is where it gets absurd. Rather than stopping the spectacle, the city decides to lean into it. If dancing is the problem, then clearly, the cure is more dancing. Guild halls are cleared, musicians are hired, and strong men are employed to keep the afflicted on their feet. If it sounds like they accidentally invented the world's worst music festival, that's because they did. By now, reality itself seems to warp. Ordinary life collapses into a fevered carnival where no one remembers the rules. Somewhere in the noise, the line between medicine, miracle, and madness blurs completely. This is the story of a city on the edge. A story of hysteria, of ritual gone rogue, of bodies that refused to stop moving until they simply couldn't. It begins on a narrow street hemmed in by timbered houses, their upper stories leaning toward each other as if conspiring. The air is thick with the smells of baking bread, horse dung, and the sharp tang of summer heat on stone. Somewhere nearby, a blacksmith's hammer rings against iron, a reminder that ordinary work still ticks on, for now. In the middle of this familiar scene, Frau Trophia steps out into the sunlight. She is unremarkable at first glance, just another figure in the flow of market life. But then her body jerks forward, not toward a stall or a neighbor, but into motion, sharp, erratic, unbidden. Her arms swing wide, her feet strike the cobbles in uneven rhythms, as if she is answering a drumbeat no one else can hear. Passers-by slow, caught between politeness and curiosity. In a city accustomed to processions, saints' days, and wedding dances, movement in the street is nothing unusual. But this has no ceremony, no musicians, no context. Trophia does not smile. She does not speak. Her gaze is fixed, somewhere past the faces around her, eyes clouded in concentration or vacancy. It is hard to tell which. Minutes stretch into hours. What begins as a curious spectacle soon turns to unease. Neighbors note the way she stumbles but never stops, how her steps repeat like the workings of a broken mill wheel. Children whisper to each other. Merchants pretend not to watch while adjusting the same bundle of goods again and again. Someone mutters the word fever. Another crosses themselves. By nightfall, she is still moving. Not the graceful turning of a dance hall, but the relentless pacing of something driven by compulsion. Her skirts darken with sweat. Her hair clings to her face. A pair of city watchmen, unsure whether this is illness, drunkenness, or something far stranger, choose to let her be. After all, there is no law against moving one's feet. Morning brings no change. Trophea is in the same street, tracing the same erratic loops. Witnesses note her swollen feet, but also the strange absence of collapse. It is as if her body refuses the logic of exhaustion. Some onlookers begin to speak in the language of saints and curses. Street Vitus, the patron invoked against such convulsions, is named in hushed tones. By the third day, small knots of townsfolk come to watch. Bakers carry trays to the windows for a better view. Apprentices take long detours past the site of her strange exertion. A few claim they feel something stir in their own limbs, a tingling, a pull toward the same frantic rhythm. And then, the first imitators appear. Whether out of sympathy, suggestion, or some shared affliction, one woman begins to mirror Trophea's movements. Then a man joins in, awkward at first, then with the same vacant persistence. The crowd shifts from idle spectatorship to uneasy recognition. This is no isolated oddity. By week's end, dozens have joined. Some manage only a few hours before faltering. Others match Trophea's endurance, swaying and stomping under the glare of the sun until their clothes hang heavy with sweat. The marketplace becomes both stage and infirmary, its air filled with the slap of soles against stone and the low murmur of disbelief. The city's chroniclers will later struggle to decide how many took part in these first days. Some will claim 50, others hundreds, but all agree on the sight, a growing mass of bodies, compelled to move without music, reason, or rest. At night, the dancers fill the dreams of those who only watched, their jerking motions replayed in the mind's eye like an unshakable vision. Rumors spread more quickly than the affliction itself, that it is a punishment for sin, a test of faith, or the work of corrupted blood. Somewhere in Strasbourg's narrow lanes, life continues. Bread rises, merchants haggle, the cathedral's bells mark the hours. But for those who have seen the dancers, normality feels thin, fragile, one step away from the same irresistible pull. It is here, in this uneasy mixture of the everyday and the inexplicable, that the dancing plague begins to root itself. Frau Trophea's feet do not stop, and neither, it seems, does the contagion of her movement. By the second week, Strasbourg's streets no longer belong to merchants or pilgrims. They belong to the dancers. What began with a lone woman has swollen into a tide of stamping, swaying, and collapsing bodies. The marketplace, usually a stage for commerce, is now an open-air theatre of compulsion. Estimates will vary for centuries. Some chronicles place the number at 50, others insist on 400. The truth, like the disease itself, resists measurement. Witnesses agree only on the essential image. A mass of people, drenched in sweat, faces vacant or contorted, moving without pause beneath the hard summer Sunday. The sound carries before the sight, the slap of leather soles against cobbles, the low grunts of exertion, the occasional cry when knees give way or ankles twist. Those too weak to stand are dragged aside, only for others to step into their place, as if the city itself demands the rhythm continue. Day blurs into night. Lanterns are lit to keep the afflicted visible after sunset, their shadows stretching along the walls like grotesque marionettes. Sleep offers no mercy. Many rise after only a few hours collapse and resume the same urgent movement, as though driven by an unfinished task. Spectators have grown accustomed to the strange pageant. They bring benches, shaded awnings, even snacks, uneasy picnics set against the backdrop of human endurance unraveling. There is talk of wagers, how long a certain dancer can last before collapsing, who will outlast whom. If the scene resembles a festival, it is one stripped of joy. Some physicians stand in the crowd, taking notes. They speak of overheated blood, of humours thrown into imbalance by the season. The term choreomania appears in marginal scribbles, but offers no cure. Others reach for scripture, declaring the plague an act of divine judgment or demonic influence. Neither explanation slows the steps. The afflicted are not confined to one square. Dancing erupts in side streets, in the courtyards of guild halls, even on the steps of the cathedral. The city's rhythm has changed. Bells still toll the hours, but they are answered by the shuffle and stamp of feet that refuse to rest. From a distance, the movement can seem almost synchronized, like an elaborate civic ritual. Up close, the disarray is obvious. Some sway as if in prayer, others jerk violently. Some seem to be running in place against an invisible wind. Conversations between dancers are rare. Most seem locked inward, unreachable. Collapse is the only interruption. Heat, exhaustion, and strain claim their toll. A few never rise again, their final moments spent in motion. Chroniclers note deaths from heart failure and stroke, though these are recorded with the same dispassion as a merchant's ledger. The city grieves quietly, but the steps continue around the fallen. Rumors of contagion spread faster than any official proclamation. In nearby towns, people bar their gates to travelers from Strasbourg. Traders whisper that the very sight of the afflicted is dangerous, that to watch too long is to be drawn in. Some citizens avert their eyes entirely, navigating the streets without looking at what passes beside them. By late August, the number of dancers has peaked. Public spaces are choked with bodies, and yet the phenomenon shows no sign of burning out. The authorities begin to recognize the scale of the crisis, though not, perhaps, its nature. In the face of a city losing control of its own limbs, they will turn to solutions as strange as the affliction itself. The summer heat lingers, the dancers still move, and beneath the growing desperation of the crowd, a quieter fear begins to take root. If the cause cannot be seen, named, or touched, perhaps it cannot be stopped at all.
Welcome back. To this day, scientists still could not explain what caused the dancing plague. History cannot sum up how many people were actually involved. History does tell of the streets being filled with the dead and dying. Where did it come from? Where did it go? Sadly, that is just one part of history that we will never have an answer to. It's strange how these things crop up out of nowhere, live, affect, and then just vanish. Just one more mystery. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you out there.